So since the weather's been absolutely dreadful, I mean, it's either been really, really cold and frosty and everything's hard, or it's just been a deluge and there's really been nothing in between. So I thought it was a good time to catch up on my greenhouse build. Now, while I was putting this video together, I actually realised that my footage was dreadful. So I will do the best that I can to explain how I basically modified this cheap Amazon greenhouse to make, I feel like, a really good quality, high quality, deluxe kind of hoop house, polytunnel, whatever you want to call it. Now, obviously, another thing I've been doing while the rain has been hammering down and it's winter and there's not as much to do in the garden, well, in most people's gardens, there's loads to do in my garden, but I have been building my website and finishing that off, which I have launched. So I'm just going to take a minute really, to tell you a little bit about that before I get into building my polytunnel. All right, so welcome to my website. Here it is, and here's the home page with the various shops and clickable links here. At the bottom you have Learn with Jill, so I'm going to be adding some courses in the near future, mainly art, possibly website builds if you want to do something similar. Then if we scroll up to the top, you'll see the shops, the various categories, and you can see that there's a UK and a US store. I'm going to be adding a French store. You can buy my merch on almost all Amazon platforms. So although these are my own designs, they are all on Amazon, so you can shop direct from Amazon if you want. So they're curated here on my website, and I've split it into UK and US shops, which means that when you click on your own shop in your own country, you are shopping directly from Amazon in your own country. This also means that you have all the same great protections that Amazon offers you, such as great security, delivery, returns, all the safety that you get from shopping on Amazon, and the customer service, because you're buying really direct from Amazon. And of course, then you click on the product you want and you've got all the variety of sizes and styles that Amazon offer as well. So let's go on to the US store here, and as I say, we'll be adding more stores. Just a quick note, that is my internet connection. If that happens to you, just refresh the page and there the store comes up. So here we go, is a standard t-shirt. This is in the US, shop straight on Amazon. You'll notice in this right top hand corner there it says currently unavailable. That's because I'm looking at this website from the UK and it won't ship to the UK. If you're shipping looking from the US, that will be available. And so here you can see men's, women's, children's sizes, and it goes right down to sort of 2 years of age. So you can even buy these products for your babies. At the moment, the homeware store is only available in the US, and we have some nice custom colours here. We have a heritage blue, a lavender blue, a pink, really nice for people who like fresher colours at Christmas, or if you're decorating a children's bedroom, for instance, you can buy these nice throw cushions. And we have this sort of frosty, cool green blue colour, which is just really nice, contemporary, if you don't really like the kind of the more cosy, darker colours at Christmas. That said, we do have a cosy Christmas green and a festive berry red, if that's what you're looking for. Some different designs in the US and the UK stores because of the different wildlife. So obviously in America you have wolves. We don't have those in the UK, whereas we have the British robin and little foxes and things in the UK store. I also have a blog which I'm hoping to start updating weekly, and I have a garden shop which is yet to be populated with products, and I also have a cottage garden book coming in the book section. So check out the website, my link is below, and now let's get back to the video. So the parcel came from Amazon and it was a pretty reasonable size, so don't be intimidated by that. I ordered the slightly larger size. You can get bigger ones, and it was absolutely fine to manage by myself, the parcel. I mean, obviously the guy delivered it, but I was able to take it down the garden by myself. It's very lightweight. First thing I did was obviously audit the pieces to make sure I had them all, including counting the screws and the nuts and the bolts, and it worked out. I did have enough. And then I noticed another thing to note is that the numbers, all the metal pieces are numbered. So that's absolutely great. So you're not trying to work out which length of piece goes where on the diagram. They all have a little sticker on them with the corresponding number. So that made life a lot easier. Now, another thing to note is I did build this all by myself, and it was quite a big structure to build for one person. And you can see here, what was most difficult was not bending the metal as I was trying to, do one side, then the other side. I was trying to balance it out so that I wouldn't twist the metal. I also used a ladder to prop the sides up so that I wouldn't twist the metal, as you can see. So it's not heavy, it's just awkward. So you can absolutely 100% definitely build this on your own. I had zero help whatsoever. The only thing I did need help with was moving it. Now, if you're building it in situ, of course, that's absolutely fine. But I didn't really have enough space to build mine in situ because I've got this rose hedge here. So I decided to build mine on the lawn and then move it, and I definitely needed help with that because otherwise it would have twisted and I would have had to drag it, and then I would have risked the pieces breaking off and so on. So the main last thing to note about the metal frame was just make sure you've got the poles in the right place. So the top length pole goes underneath the hoop poles. And as you can see on this footage here, I've put that outside pole on the outside. In fact, that should have been on the inside. I did work that out later, and I had to do a lot of jiggery pokery just to put everything back in the right place. And the reason for that is when you put the plastic on, you obviously don't want the plastic tearing on anything or sort of sticking or being lumpy. So those poles should have been on the inside. And then you have a diagonal pole, which is obviously to strengthen the structure. Just take a little bit of time to notice in which order all those pieces of metal go before you put the screws in. So once I had everything in place, and really, as I say, I can't stress enough that it was pretty easy, I then moved the structure. Now, as I say, I did need help with that. I got my teenage daughter to do that. So it wasn't a difficult job. It wasn't heavy. So we moved that into place. And then I was able to start thinking about framing it with giving it a more solid structure. Remember, I wasn't using the cover that Amazon provided with this particular polytunnel, but of course you can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It was quite a tough cover. It looked good. It looked like it would definitely do the job if it's going to be your first greenhouse and you really are on a budget. I mean, I was on a budget, but I just wanted to go a little bit further with it. So it's not that I'm poo-pooing that cover at all. It's just that's not what I wanted for the aesthetic of my garden, if you like. If I was on an allotment where perhaps I wouldn't care so much, then I would definitely have used it. It would have been a lot quicker and I would have saved a lot of money. Now, rather stupidly, I moved it over this table. Really, I should have taken the table out in the first instance. But look, I just thought we'd take a time to notice those plants there. They're all the ones that ended up in the greenhouse. I mean, you've seen how they've grown. And I only did this, back in September, August, was it? Late September, late August, September. And you can see how much those plants have grown since I built this polytunnel. So it really has, I think, been a real benefit. I thought what was really interesting as well was that I just did not think I had a big enough space for a greenhouse in my garden with all the planting that I wanted to do. And it's amazing how you can think a space is a lot smaller than it is, or conversely a lot bigger than it is, depending on what's in it or around it. So this space had like a table, it had the rose hedge next to it, it has a hedge behind it, and the whole space felt a lot smaller than it actually was when I got the tape measure out to actually measure the space. And what I'm showing you here, by the way, is where I'm going to put a raised border on the front of the greenhouse, which will also add weight and help sort of anchor it to the ground. So as you see, I'm just showing you the whole space where it's going to go. And when I actually measured this space, I was really surprised by the size of it. I thought it really just fit this table and chairs in snugly, but in fact it fit this huge greenhouse. So I'm pretty pleased. As you can see, here it is in situ with the hedge behind. I have left myself enough access to just shimmy around the back and to shimmy around the side of the roses so that I can cut the roses back if they are threatening the plastic at any point in the future. Before I add the plastic, I'm going to do some sort of structural work on it. Now, of course, the other thing about it was that I was able to push it into slightly soft soil and sort of anchor it that way, but I noticed that it wasn't that even, and I had some hard bits of old patio where I couldn't shove the metal poles into. So I had to figure out a way of obviously making it level before starting to add the wooden skirt, which I was going to add a wooden skirt around the bottom to help anchor it, and also to where I could attach the plastic. So a note on the wood, I measured the car from the passenger seat diagonal right through to the boot, so I was able to get in the right length of wood for the length of the greenhouse, and it was pressure treated, sort of 2x4s, I think, or was it 2x6s? I mean, it really doesn't matter, whatever you can get hold of. And then I was able to screw a panel along the whole way along each side of the greenhouse, as you can see here. And I used these kind of like little hooks. So I'm going to do another one that side. As you can see, I've moved the gravel out the way so that I can keep it all nice and straight. And then I'm going to do them along the front and the back as well. So I'll have to cut those ones to size. And so here's the hooks here. Look, you can see they're little, half moons, and you just screw them. You put them over the pipe, obviously, and then screw each sort of screw into the wood. Why am I explaining that? Look, I'll just show you them. I think I got these off Amazon again. They came with the screws. I think I used slightly longer screws, and I ended up using them a lot because I put a mid rail on as well, which you'll see in a minute. So I'll just put my diagram up again of what I was kind of aiming for, and as you can see, the sizes on that as well. So the door is at the front, there's a window at the back, which I still haven't finished. The hoops over the top, as you can see. So the black is where the metal frames are on the Amazon, and then the brown is where I'm adding my own wood to secure it. And what I haven't done in there is the raised beds, but obviously I am doing raised beds. I didn't do those roll-up sides. I'm going to figure those out in the spring as and when I need to have roll-up sides. I'm going to figure all that out then. But for now, I just really wanted the structure finished, ready for winter, which it is essentially. I'd just also like to reiterate that I have zero, like zilch almost, experience of doing DIY projects like this. So, but as I've talked about in previous videos, I'm kind of tired of hiring people to do stuff. So I just figured I'm going to figure it all out myself. So if you're watching this and thinking, oh my goodness, she's done that wrong, then you probably know more than I do. Yes, I probably didn't do things in the correct order, but this is how I did it, and I figured it out. And then, of course, next time I do a project, I will know better. So I put the door frame in, and I did have to use those hooks again for that. Those little semicircular hooks actually ended up being my saving grace, really. When I did the door frame, as you can see, the door frame is square and the hoops are obviously circular, so you do have to cut the wood at an angle, but luckily I didn't have to cut them in with a curve, that because it was just a minor angle, it was just a couple of inches. It actually the cutting it straight at the right angle was enough for it to fit snugly in the gap, the top rail. You can see there. I'll show you it here, look. And those semicircular little hooks that I keep showing you, you can bend them as well. So I was able to bend them over the top, if I can just find a bit of footage to show you that. So here, where it joins here, oh yes, I use these zip ties as well, just to hold things in place until I could get a screw in. So those semicircular things, you can bend them. So I bent them over the top here so that I could screw them onto the wood. So here you can see I just put them over the wood here, and then I bent the metal flaps down so that they were flush with the wood. The metal was very soft on these hooks, and so then I was able to, manipulate the hooks to fit, the different angles and circumstances of the wood that I wanted to screw into. So they were absolutely perfect for a number of jobs during this project. So I definitely recommend getting them if you are thinking of adapting your hoop house this way, or any hoop house, even if you're not using an Amazon project, even if maybe you're doing those plastic ones where you use plastic piping, you could still use these little metal hooks to secure it to the wooden frame. And yeah, the zip ties did act like an extra pair of hands just to hold things up until I was able to secure them. So there you can see the back frame there. That's where the back window is going to go. So it just made it a lot easier having the zip ties as an extra pair of hands, and then those sort of hooks, as you can see now, holding that door frame up in place. And here I am showing you that angle to cut to fit the circular part of the hoop, and really it's just a straight cut, and it was just fine. It was perfect. It still fit the hoop flush. Obviously, if you're using a thicker piece of wood, then you're going to have to think more about a curve, but this was just a narrow piece. And then with the cut off on the end, I was able to use that as a template for the other end in reverse to get a nice even angle on both sides that fit the hoops perfectly. So I was pretty pleased with that. And then here I'm just showing you where I had to move these the metal pipes when I was building the frame, because I had them all in the wrong order. So I had, as you can see, this one on the outside when it should have been on the inside, and then the supporting diagonal frame, it wasn't tying up right. So, and of course you don't want the plastic going on the outside of that pipe, if that makes sense. So I did have to undo those and do them again, annoyingly. But if you watch this video, then here I am just tipping you off, just to bear that in mind if you're going to build this hoop house. Even if you're not going to custom make it, you're still going to have to bear that in mind. Anyhow, so here I had a bit of a problem because, as I say, part of the base was level and part wasn't. So part of the ground, sorry, was soft and part was patio. So I had to figure a way of evening up, leveling up all these different posts, and I did it in various ways. And I did use a spirit level ultimately to go over all the areas, and I kept using the spirit level because it's really easy once you start attaching the wood and moving things about to throw everything out again. So I did level, measure again. Rather than measure, I was more leveling again, and I used like a right angle measure thing to just make sure all the corners were at right angles and things like that. I just kept doing that because I have built little projects before and realized that that's sort of quite important to do, because otherwise you can throw your whole project off. So here I am, and you can see the greenhouse now in the space with a lot of the wooden frame, and you can see I've got a raised bed internally built now, and the wood, buying it quite a standard size like that turned out to be really good because it meant I did a lot less cutting of the wood. The wood literally came almost in the exact length that the greenhouse was, just in the DIY store. And once I realized I could fit it all in my car, that made things a lot easier. So there's a tip, measure the length of your car even before you perhaps even decide on what size greenhouse you want, because otherwise you're going to start looking at delivery costs and just the extra hassle. Like, say for instance, you decide on delivery of the wood and then you realize you haven't got enough wood, you're going to have to go through it all again. Whereas if it fits in your car, and I have an ordinary car, I have just a little Kia car, so obviously once I knew I could fit it in the car, that just made the whole project psychologically as well a lot easier. And then, as you can see, because it was standard wood, I could just make the borders with the internal raised border with the same wood. So that was just absolutely great. Again, attaching it on to the inside, because I don't want the plastic damaged. I don't know what my dog is staring at there. But, you know, and then also I didn't put the plastic on until I was sure that I'd done as much work as I needed to do internally, because I didn't want to be putting screws and doing all that work and then damaging the plastic. In fact, I almost wish I'd done a little bit more of that before I put the plastic on, because there was a couple of jobs I did end up doing after I put the plastic on that were problematic once the plastic was on, if that makes sense. So I wanted to add an electrical socket, as you can see just there. I had to raise it up so that I wouldn't wet it when I was watering the plants. And that was actually quite difficult once I put the plastic on, because, you know, I had to put screws in and all sorts, and I didn't want to pierce the plastic. So if you are building sort of integral parts inside your greenhouse, I would suggest you do them before you put the plastic on. And the door frames, and really they were just squares braced with hinges to fit inside the frame that I originally built, obviously nearer the beginning of this video. I'm trying to keep it short and use the footage that I've got to give you the best examples. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of me putting the plastic on. What happened was I opened up the plastic in, and it was slightly windier than I thought it was. So I really didn't want to mess about, and I wanted to get that on also before it went dark. So what you do is you unravel it and roll it along your very top beam, and then you roll it down the sides of your hoop house. Now you have to make sure that you have enough to then fold around towards your doors and windows at the front here, and you sort of slightly gather them. I slightly gather them there to make it look more attractive, because you will never get it completely flat. And then I pinned it, as you can see, on the inside of the frames here, really as tight as I could there. And I was a little bit short at the bottom there, so I had to do a bit of jiggery pokery there with to cover up the gaps. That was a little bit more tricky than I was hoping. But there you can see that was a little bit more difficult than I was expecting. It was a little bit more nerve-wracking, let's put it that way. So there we have it. It's done. Just a quick note also, it's 6mm greenhouse plastic, so it's really thick and really robust. Bought it from Amazon, so I'll link it below. And then I sort of just went round sort of stapling it to the wood at the base, around the frames, etc. As you can see, I'd already built the bench by the time I'd put this on. I framed the doors, obviously the two sections of the doors separately. And then I just stapled everything, you know, onto the wood at the frames at the bottom, etc. And just made it really taut and tight. And you can see I did add two top beams on there before I put the plastic on as well. And those were, the idea was to sort of, maybe if I needed lights or something, I could, or, you know, if I want hanging baskets in the summer, I can hang them off those beams. Okay, sorry if the audio slightly changes here, but a software update has caused my microphone to sound awful, so I'm just recording straight off my Mac. But yeah, so basically when I added the plastic, I did it unraveled. I sort of put, before I unfolded it from the box, I laid it along the top beam, and then I was able to drop down the sides. Then from the top beam, I was able to pull the plastic up to the door frame, the top of the door frame, the top of the window frame, and secure it there. So I had that kind of taut at that point. Then when you roll down the sides, of course, you can then pull down the sides. And because I've got the wood attached at the bottom, I was able to sort of pin it, and the midway wood slats there. So I could sort of pull it, pin it, pull it, pin it. And then finally what you do is you pull it towards the door frames, and you do that sort of ruche level, you know, when you're ruching it there, to sort of, because you will, you know, have excess plastic, so you just ruche it to sort of make it look fairly attractive on the front there. And of course then pull it round the sides and pin it on the inside, like so. As you can see, I mean, I've seen better jobs of it than mine, but you know, I still thought it was pretty good. And then you can see how taut it is all the way down the frame there. So yeah, start at the top, roll the sides down, pin it above the door and above the window first, so that you've got that first roof. Along the roof you've got that really tight, from which then you can pull down the rest down the sides, and then once you've got the sides tight you can pull it across towards the doors and, you know, the mid sections here, as you can see here. It was tricky. I found it nerve-wracking, and I found even a sort of slight breeze can really make it even more nerve-wracking. So don't do it in a slight breeze, basically. And you can see I've got excess plastic here, which I'm going to leave and put gravel over it. I mean, this one on this side anyway is going to have another raised bed to hold it, to just anchor it even more. On the other side it doesn't, next to the rose hedge, so it's just got gravel on it to sort of hold it down. I didn't want to cut off the excess at this point because I don't know yet what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to have roll up sides in the spring. I was getting a bit bamboozled by it all, so I haven't done a system for the rolled up sides yet. So that will be something I will maybe adapt come spring, early summer, when things start to get really hot in here. I may rethink what I'm going to do with that plastic there. But yeah, you can see there it is, pretty much done. I haven't built my bench on the other side yet, but you'll see that in a minute. And the raised bed, let me just talk quickly about the raised bed. It was really just, firstly, as I said before, the wood was all a standard size, so it actually fit perfectly inside the greenhouse. And I used just 4 pieces for each corner, and then a supporting sort of a stump stake for the outside corner. I'm just showing you where I'm going to do the outside raised bed there. And then I literally just panelled. There's no bottom on it because obviously it's straight onto the gravel floor. And then I just added the panels to it. And then the outside raised bed was done the same. And it's all anchored to the greenhouse so that, you know, it just cannot move. It's so weighed down now that it cannot move. So as you can see, there's the stakes there in each corner, and I have a midsection, so because I don't want the wood to bow, so I've put a mid section as well, and then just screwed it in. You can screw it, nail it in, whatever. And once that's got the soil in and everything, it's just been absolutely solid. And as you've seen in my other videos, I've got all my snapdragons overwintering in there now. And I can't stress how much extra space this has given me, because really this was just, you know, an area of garden that I just had to weed all the time, but wasn't really growing anything in. Now I've got these borders, and here's the one that I did, just replicated the one inside, but made this one outside bigger. This was again a wasted border. That nothing really grew in this border, but I think that's because the cat in particular was using it for you know what. But now I've put this you know, raised bed, and I've covered it over with the chicken wire for now, with some plants in it. It's already full of plants. So I just filled it up obviously with garden waste, cardboard from the packaging of the greenhouse, and then I did have to buy some sort of extra topsoil and stuff because I was kind of running out at this point of my own compost. And as I say, it's just absolutely given me so much growing space. I'm just so excited about it, really. It's just been a great build. It was hard work and took me longer than I thought, and you know, especially the wooden stuff, because I'm not a carpenter. So it wasn't easy. The doors, which I, you know, still, you know, procrastinating about finishing, all that was a little bit tricky for me, but you know, it's been a really great project. And then I added, of course, the interior bench. The interior bench was almost just the one layer of the external raised bed, and then I just put slats across it. So I built it on longer legs, then I built a kind of a rectangle around it, and then I put the slats on top of it. And then, as you've seen also in another video, I've used the shoe racks, of course, to give me even extra space on top of those. And I put in the electrical cord. So, I mean, that's really it. I'm not sure, like, I could have done this video better, of course. I hope it's helped, because I think the most important thing is, one, I did it on my own. 2, I did it with zero experience. And 3, it just really was a valuable exercise for anyone. And you can get smaller versions than this, by the way. On Amazon, they have, even smaller sizes or bigger sizes if you've got a bigger plot. So you can just adapt this however you want. I have rigged up some lighting in here, but what I have noticed is, obviously because of the amount of condensation it holds, that perhaps lighting isn't such a great idea in the winter. So I probably won't be using it in the dark like I thought. Certainly not in the winter when it's all very lots of condensation inside. So that's just worth bearing in mind. But in the summer it was really dry in here, even when there was light rain outside. So obviously, in the summer, it is something I could definitely use, but also the beams anyway. I'm glad I put the beams in because I can use hanging baskets. So at the moment, I've got all my hardy annuals, half hardy annuals overwintering in here, anything tender as well. And I will be in the summer, I think, doing more veg wise. So I'm thinking I want to do some watermelons, aubergines, peppers, chilies, tomatoes. I mean, I can grow tomatoes outside, but to get an earlier crop, I thought I might do some inside and just fill this with veg, because obviously I won't need it for flowers come the summer. So it will get a new lease of life for different plants in the summer. And as I say, it wasn't easy. It wasn't hard. It was kind of more hard. It's hard for someone who hasn't done it before because you're having to think about everything. It's all new to you, but it's not hard in that it's mentally difficult. You don't need like 100 years worth of skills to do it. You just need to sort of just wrap your head around it and get on with it. And so that, of course, that made it longer. The job, somebody else could probably put this up in a couple of days. I think it took me a little bit over a week because I had to keep stopping because I was sort of getting mentally fatigued by thinking it all through. So yeah, and of course then there's the weather gets in the way, but no, definitely worthwhile. And of course the amount I have saved. I just building this myself. It still did add up. The wood really added up. The plastic was about 40 quid, so it was an extra 40 quid on top of the original frame that I bought from Amazon. But the wood was really expensive. So, but those things you can add as you go. Although I did say, of course, it is better to build the wooden stuff in the interior as you go. But of course, I built that big raised bed attached to it on the side as well. Well, you wouldn't need to do that. You could do that at another time if you wanted to save some money. So yeah, it was a great project. I hope this video has helped on some level. I'm going to switch off now because I think, it's getting too long. But if you have any questions, definitely ask me in the comments. I will answer. And don't forget to check out my website, of course. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. If you do build one, I can't stress enough how wonderful it is. It feels quite magical to have one, and it's all filled with plants now, and it's just the opportunities I have for my garden next summer, spring and summer, have just completely been transformed by having this greenhouse. As you know, I'm building a cottage garden, and to fill my garden full of plants, it's a medium-sized garden. It's not tiny, it's not huge either, but to fill it with plants, the kind of a number of plants that I want would have been really phenomenally expensive. And now I've got this greenhouse, that's just transformed the whole economy of the garden. So yeah, let me know if you want to build one or you have any questions or anything like that. Let me know in the comments and I will get back to you. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.